Right, now in the museum you saw the cast of the skull that Mary Anning and Joseph found, and we're only just a stone's throw away from the museum, just a few minutes walk, but it was along this section of coast here, Church Cliffs, where Mary found that ichthyosaur skull. And in Mary's day, lots of things were happening that made fossiling easier in some ways than it is today. Firstly, there wasn't probably the number of people coming out collecting, but secondly, the cliffs here were being quarried. They were being quarried for limestone, initially to make buildings such as church and houses, but later on to make cement. And as they're quarrying away the cliffs, they're revealing fossils, they're revealing ichthyosaur skeletons occasionally, things like that. But quarrying the cliffs was dangerous. Men were killed quarrying the cliffs. So another way of getting the stone was to quarry the ledges that go out into the sea, the layers of limestone and shale. And the men would crowbar up the ledges and the stone would go off for building and cement making. And this all worked very well. People made money out of it. But by about the 1840s, there started to be complaints because the ledges out in the sea used to be far bigger than they are today. And when we have the big winter storms, unlike the nice smooth tides of today, the waves came crashing in and they'd break against the ledges in the sea and then slowly trickle into the shore without any problems. As soon as the ledges got quarried away, the big winter storms started hitting the cliffs and breaking up the cliffs. And as you can see, the sea's here and the church is just behind me, and all around the church you've got the graveyard. And this graveyard used to be a lot bigger. About a third of it fell away into the sea, and the gravedigger's cottage was at the end of the cemetery, and that fell into the sea as well. And Victorian collectors didn't only used to find ichthyosaur and plesiosaur bones, human bones as well ended up on the beach. And the first seawall was built about 1910. You can still see the remains of it behind the modern concrete seawall, and the big concrete seawall now, that'll hopefully last quite a few years, and that provides a lovely walkway around, and it protects the church, the graveyard and the houses you see behind me here from the winter storms and the winter tides. Now there's another reason for going to the cemetery as well, so I'll take you just for a 30-second walk along here and we'll have a little look at who else is buried in the cemetery. Right, I think that's over to Max and moving stuff.